All right, everybody. Hello, hello. It is another Tuesday night Principal Chiro broadcast brought to you by DE and Band of Brothers. Um, we are excited to start talking about October. So I think it's October 13th or 15th, somewhere right in there. We'll be having DE again live in Marietta, Georgia. So, besides that, October 8th is GCC Golf Tournament. Please come and join us. There it is, Cairo Cup, third one. It's great last year. So, come on and come out and play with us on the golf course. It was good. And this week we have someone relatively new to DE, but great doc. I've seen him a few times, met him a few times, and I saw him up in Tennessee. He's up in Knoxville, Tennessee. Dr. John Scott is our guest this week, and I'm going to let him take it away. Thank you so much, John, for doing this, and we love and appreciate you. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian. First of all, thank you for having me tonight on tonight's phone call. As I was thinking about this, Andy contacted me on Sunday and asked if I wouldn't mind sharing. I got to know him kind of at the very start when I first went about a little over a year ago, and so I've gotten to know him over the past year. And he just asked that I would maybe share, how DE has affected my life, and I can tell you right now that it's affected it quite tremendously. So tonight really is just a big thank you to the DE family. Really, from the bottom of my heart, it has been quite an amazing year for myself, and just getting back into chiropractic and really starting to just have that fire and that passion again. So I'm going to backtrack and give you a little story in terms of where I was at, what I was like up until this point. So I spent the first 20 years of my practice in California, in Thousand Oaks. I had a good practice there, but when you look at it, and when people talk about and give Andy a hard time about being maybe a rank mixer, I mean, I started thinking, that was me. As I started thinking back, some of the stuff I guess I forgot about intentionally, but I just standard practice where you adjust somebody, then you put them on therapies, usually like a diathermy or hot packs, cold packs, and then you send them on their way. And I did that for about the first 5 years of my practice. And then I discovered biophysics and went out on my own and actually with another friend. And we had a biophysics practice, and I had that for about 15 years. And again, a lot of fun. It was good stuff. But, over time, you start becoming like maybe a back mechanic. And I really started to get disillusioned. I really started to think that, I'm into this more than the patients are. And I really kind of thought that they would want something more of it. And then, of course, I was still doing therapies there. And then I started getting into things like diet and weight loss. I had that going on in the office, had massage in there. I had all these things going on at different times. And really, as I look back and reflected for the last few days, I don't know what I was doing. It really became an issue over time. And, really, I started to feel the burn. And I thought I had philosophy, but I really just didn't quite get it, and that was something that started weighing on me pretty heavy. And being in California for 30 years, I just watched the place fill up, and I just started getting more disillusioned and just seeing things in terms of where my mind was at. I was seeing expenses go up, I was seeing insurance benefits dwindle, people having a harder time, people talking about financial issues. And so all these things are mounting on me. And of course, all my expenses, things are going up. And again, my mindset wasn't about giving and loving and serving. It was all about, okay, I got to make the dollar, got to make it happen. And just really started having some internal turmoil with that. And I was just getting burned, really feeling burnout. But I just knew also that I needed to get out. I needed a fresh start. And being where my wife was at with her postgraduate education in psychology, this was going to be a great opportunity for us to get out. And being that she's from the Midwest, and I grew up in Colorado prior to California, and I just like, all right, I'd go and visit, and you'd see blue skies, you'd see, everything was green. And it was like, all right, this is what I need to do. I need to get out of my environment, try something new. And that really became more and more of a thing for us. So long story short, we ended up moving in Knoxville. But prior to that, amongst all these things that were happening and just this disillusionment and the problems with the office, and I think I had like at one point like 9 employees. I mean, talk about headaches. Then I ended up having a back injury, and that just really just took the wind out of my sails. And it's not like anything specific happened. It's just that I don't have the nicest looking lumbar spine, but ended up becoming a problem. And it was like the longest 9 months of my life. You'd wait, every day was just turmoil. You'd wake up early. I'd spend as much time as I could just trying to get my back to not bother me so much in terms of getting ready for work. And then I'd work for 3.5 hours, barely make it to lunch, come home, rest, and then start that process again, go through the afternoon. It would get worse. I'd come home, and then again, back to therapies, and then back to bed, and this was every day, plus trying to get adjustments. And I had to take time off of work as well, and seek care from other friends. And luckily I had an associate in the office who was able to, who was quite proficient right away early on and able to take care of things. But that was the picture of me at that point in time. And I ended up selling the practice right before Labor Day in 2016. And I ended up taking a year off. I took a sabbatical. My wife was doing an internship in Ohio. And I'll tell you, that was needed. There was nothing in me. And that really just, when I look back on my life, I was like, after 20 years of practice, I was like this. I had nothing really to show for it in terms of what I'd hoped for and what I dreamed for. I just never came through with it. So it was kind of tough. And I spent a lot of time, by myself, sleeping, thinking, just clearing my brain, clearing my head. And it was a good 6 months of doing that. And then once we got done with winter and started going into the spring, I started knowing that, okay, we want to go to Knoxville. We had found the place. If you've ever been here, there's a lot of topography, a lot of water. I like to cycle a lot. And so I was able to, it's a great place to do that. And we went there, and the cool part about this is that it's been a God thing all the way for me, because, I was praying to God for just a change and something to happen. And the greatest thing is when my wife had met a chiropractor in town about 5 years prior, before he came, and he gave her his business card and said I could call and talk to him at any point in time if I needed to. But amongst trying to sell the practice and do all those other things, wondering if it's even going to happen, I never ended up calling him, but I kept his card. But when I got licensed, I went down. I met with a board member on a Monday. I got up to Knoxville on Tuesday, and I went into his office and we met. And it was pretty amazing when we come to find out that he had a broker that was going to sell his practice, and he fired that broker on a Monday, and I walked in on a Tuesday. And we hit it off really well. So pretty much a year to the date, right before Labor Day of 2017, I bought his practice. And so I'm back in it. I'm feeling somewhat refreshed. I'm going back into the motions. But really, the biggest issue for me is that not a whole lot had changed. Nothing between my ears changed. Nothing, in my heart changed. I just had time to rest. And so started building the practice, but I had no foundation. And as it rose, it ended up plummeting and kind of getting low again. And that was tough. I kept praying about it, kept just trying to figure things out. And it was amazing. It took about a total, maybe a little over 2 years of time through the sabbatical, and then spending a year in Knoxville, starting to get that fire back that I once had when I first got into chiropractic. I totally lost it. And I started to get that fire, started to really enjoy myself. I just through taking it easy and trying to change things. And it was amazing, because all of a sudden DE popped into my head, because I had a really good friend in California, Billy DeMoss. He had been telling me for over 10 years that you got to get to DE, you got to get to DE. He said he changed his life, and he talked about it all the time. And just where my mindset was at, it was like, well, are there CEs with DE? Because I'm not going to fly all the way to the East Coast, for not more than, if I'm not going to get my 12 hours. That was my mentality back then. It's looking back on it. That's pretty selfish and pretty poor, but that's how it was. But I realized DE was right down the road, and I'm thinking to myself, God put me here. The doors were open, completely wide into this practice. Everything with it was great, and then I'm like 2.5 hours north from DE, and so I just said, look, I prayed to God about it and said, I'm just going to be an open book, and I'm going to go down, and I have no expectations, and just going to see what happens. I just went down there. I did it. I think it was a year ago. It was either July or August that I went to it, and uh, let me tell you, DE was basically a gas can poured on top of that little flame of mine, and it erupted. And as a result, I mean, my life has totally changed. I mean, DE brought back a dead chiropractor back to life. That's the bottom line. Looking back on that, having no passion, no heart, no purpose, everything's dead inside, to having more passion than I ever had before. So, I mean, I have to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart. I mean, just people who get up and speak and pour their hearts out on the stage, and it's not, I mean, I went there and it was like, I'm really going to listen to what's being said, and people were just the things that were being talked about. I mean, I have a notebook. It's already full. It's done. I mean, I have to get another notebook to start filling notes off. There's so many amazing little gems tucked away from every person that gets up and speak, and I took that to heart. And the biggest thing I mean, 20, I guess it was 22 years in practice at the time. I had never heard of giving, of the lasting purpose of give, love, and serve. And so I spent the last year. That was like my main thing is, okay, what is giving, loving, and serving, out of your own abundance and expecting nothing in return? What is that all about? And read the book, and I picked up, like Judson's books as well. I bought all the books and stuff day one, and I just started on this passage and this hunt to try to figure this stuff out. Because I knew if I wasn't going to make a change, I was done. Nothing was going to happen, in my life. I don't know where I'd be. And so I knew that this is not what I wanted in terms of my previous life before DE. And so DE was exactly what I needed. And, you think back, I really wish that I would have had DE. I would have gone to it, 20 years ago, but you know what? That's just not the way it was. And I'm happy that I'm here. I've learned a lot of things, and I think that there was a reason for the way everything happened. So I go there. I got some more talking points here. Let's see. I mean, yeah, I was just literally blown away. I mean, when I went there, I had heard philosophy before, but I guess when you're there for, I mean, what is it, like 14 or 16 hours a day, and it's just one person after another, after another, after another, of just pouring their hearts out. I mean, there was a lot to take in. I don't know if I was ready for that, and then just when I'm starting to, I remember the first day, or it was a Saturday, I was just starting to get into this, like, all right, I can do it. And then Peter Armlinger gets up, and man, he goes deep. He blew my head off. I was really spinning after him, and I love what he had to say. I love what everyone else has to say, but I'll never forget. Peter is definitely goes deep. Let's see. Like I said, I was all in. I bought the books. I signed up for that monthly plan, and it's done. I'm doing it, and I'm all in. I'm going. I plan on not stopping, and I'm really excited just to see that. And I'm going to go over some other points as well. But just where I'm at, and what's happened thus far, and I'll hit that in a few minutes. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. Because I think I've been to 4 DEs. Or it's my 5th. I can't remember. I know we missed one, but I'd like to see what happens when I'm at my 40th DE. When you talk about some of these people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years, going to them, I would love to see the growth and the progression that happens to me, because I've just, you hear and you see what everybody else has been doing. I mean, I'm really excited about that. And then, of course, Paula gets up. And she was doing the Parade of Stars on Saturday night, that first night. And I just remember they're like talking about, well, what has DE done for you? And people are getting up and talking. And I'll say, at that point in time, the only thing that was ringing through my head was that DE had literally given me a mind-splitting headache. I mean, when you talk about mind blown, it was a lot to take in. It was a lot to take in, and it was an emotional weekend for me. There was a lot of thinking going on. A lot of soul searching, and And that's what it did. But then I was able to formulate stuff later and say, yeah, DE essentially, put that fire back inside of me. That is the biggest thing that it has done. It is, people say DE saved their lives. Yeah, it brought me back from the dead, if you will. I mean, DE was that impactful. People pouring their hearts out. Other things. How else has it affected my life? Well, the people. I mean, when people, speakers get up there all the time and talk about, people wanting to, like, they say to the new people, talk to people, get cell phone numbers, talk to them. They're more than happy to help. Well, on my first day there, I happened to be sitting across the aisle from Tim Zook, and him and I started talking. And we ended up hitting it off. Found out that we both like to cycle, and we friended each other on a cycling app, and just had lunch, and he kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and yeah, we got to talking, and one of the things he asked me was, "Are you doing the orientation?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that thing." I mean, I did it before in California, and I worked later. We had a lot of commuters. I mean, I had all these excuses, and then it was hard to get people to come to the class. And when they did, I realized that I was giving it to get. That was my purpose, to give, but to get. What's in it for me, and that was completely wrong. And so he helped me change that. And in a way that I've been affected. I mean, here's the thing. Tim didn't know me from Adam. We knew each other for maybe a week or two by that point, after we talked a little bit, but he said, you need to do it. And again, I said, all right, I'm going to be an open page, and, talking with God. And I said, all right, I'm told to do this. Let's do it. And let's figure out what this give, love, and serve thing is all about. And let's just do this thing. So he ends up, I remember I get home from work one night, and he FaceTimes me from his office and invited me to sit in on an orientation with patients and staff there. I mean, who does that? I mean, DE docs do that. So to encourage anybody out there, I mean, it's true. People really want to help, and he just did it because he's giving, loving, and serving out of his own abundance, and he has tons of it to give. And that was amazing. I ended up doing my class. He wanted me to record it. And I said, fine. And I sent it to him, and I figured, okay, well, maybe he'll get back to me. Maybe he won't. The next day he'd already listened to it. And that morning he gave me some accolades and some pointers. I mean, that's amazing. And like Brian was saying earlier, I saw him at a seminar, the Southern Chiropractic Conference in Tennessee. Did the same thing. He went for everybody. Everybody that was in the room, he talked about his orientation and let everybody see that. And it's just the givingness. It has changed me in terms of like my relationships with my friends, my wife, patience, loving, my attitude, my speech, everything that goes on in the office. I'm working on straying away from, talk it's not about them or things that don't matter. It's about chiropractic, and it's about nerve system, and about their health, and about improvement and what's getting better in their lives. And I'm far from perfect on that, but it's been a great work in progress, and that has had a major effect, because when you start talking differently, patients respond differently. And again, it's just because my heart's been changed, and again, that's because of DE. All right, so then 49 breaths. That's another amazing thing in terms of that. I do the 49 breaths every day before work. I'm getting better at doing it on my off days. I mean, but what an incredible way to start the morning right. My devotional, Bible, and then 49 breaths. And then declaring, Tim talked about declaring. So I'm working on my declaring, and I'm in such a better place when I go to the office. And that just makes me a better person. I think since DE, I've become even a better boss to my office manager. I'm sure she'd say that she's probably seen a change as well. I feel like it's just done a lot inside of me, and I have a lot more joy as a result. And that's a tremendous thing. And now I have love to give. Let's see. And then of course, every time there's DE, I mean, the gems that are dropped, the gems that are dropped are amazing. There's some of those little things. It's like this last D, I get pretty cynical at times, and I get an attitude, and this mask mandate that's going on in Knoxville, it really, really got me upset. Simply because from my perspective is, I believe that our immune system is stronger than a piece of cloth over my face. Okay, that's me. But I let that become a problem at times in the office, and I get a little on my little soapboxy. I stand on that thing and having issues with that. And you know, I talked with Tim before, and he had to talk me down a little bit. But then Bobby Braille gets up, and his gem. I mean, when he talked about it, it ain't nothing till I calls it. I had read that. I just read that like the week prior and didn't quite understand it yet from the Meadowlands book. And when he explained that, I mean, that was that was the quintessential slap upside the head to me. That it's not about me; it's about the patient, and that's another learning thing that is going on. That yeah, it's about the patient. I came home, told my wife that immediately, and then I told that to my office manager immediately on that Monday morning. And I'm telling you, the office was totally changed that day. We were totally different. We were totally there to serve the patients, and I know it made a big difference for them, and it just made a big difference for me. And I just started thinking about it more about serving and instead about myself. Um, and then Walter Sanchez, he talked about, they deserve it. With the mask mandate, I don't know how anybody else feels, but it's tough having that thing on all the mouth. I got a headache by the end of the day and everything else. But when he said that they deserve the orientation, I was right. They deserve it. So I sucked it up and we started it up again, started the orientation again and had it on. So did everybody else, but I did it because they deserve it. That is giving, loving, and serving out of your own abundance without any expectation return. And I learned a good lesson, a really good lesson. Um, then probably one of the things that I think it was Saturday night when Andy Harding started talking about the jacuzzi experience. Okay, I've had a lot of those jacuzzi experiences with chiropractic, and I know that I don't want to say I made a deal with God, but I really made a commitment that I'm not going to do something like that. So that really set me on purpose again, coming back from this last DE to not let it be a jacuzzi experience, and I better start taking more action. And then lastly, I think I saw there was Steve Judson. He talked about fasting, so I want to look into that because he talked about how that can really really get you thinking clearer, and that's what I want to do because I really want to give love and serve out of my own abundance, and that's all because of you guys. And then of course, lastly, I'm sorry, I forgot about that with Andy. He talked about the jacuzzi experience. That reminded me of James 1:22, where it says, "Do not just be a hearer of the word, but a doer of the word." And yeah, that's to me that hit me really hard. And now this year, I humbly tell you that in terms of practice and think about practice management. My practice management for DE is the lasting purpose, focusing on that. And we finished last year really strong. We had a great start of this year. January, February, we're doing really good. We had our best month in collections. And then, the whole COVID thing hit and things were topsy-turvy. But as it is right now for this month, we're on track to have our best month again. I haven't really looked too closely for this week, but if I'm not mistaken, we're really close to having our best week this week. I know that yesterday we had our best day ever in the office. And so, and I say that only to encourage some people out there that if you get out of your head, get into your heart, start living that lasting purpose lifestyle, and just really thinking about loving people just for the sake of loving them, giving and serving to them, and just being all in with your heart, and loving on people. That's where it comes from. That's why all that happened, and that is even my focus. I just think that that's a really cool litmus after really focusing on people. That hey, you grow, you help more people, some amazing things happen, and now I'm at a point where I'm not thinking about retirement anymore. I'm doing everything I can to keep my back as strong and as healthy as it can be, so I don't ever run back into that situation with my injury, because I did have a touch of some problems with that last year, getting back into practice, and I got that taken care of right away. And I'm just not going to let that happen again. But I'm going to practice as long as I can, as long as I physically can, and I owe all of this to every one of you at DE. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank every one of you, love and appreciate everybody, and thank you for listening to me.
John, what a great freaking talk, man.
Thank you.
So
Thank
happy
you.
for you, brother. So happy. And honestly,
Thank
I
you.
didn't know. I really didn't know the full story. So that's awesome. And the
Yeah.
way you put it together is just great. And it's amazing how it can affect so many parts of your life.
Absolutely.
You know that we say that all the time. Hi. To listen. So, all right. So we appreciate everybody and appreciate you, John. I hope you have a great
Okay.
week. And we'll see everybody back next Tuesday, man. Keep killing. Keep on keeping on. Take care, buddy.
Thank you.